NASA's car-sized Mars rover was designed to investigate the Jezero crater on Mars in search of signs of life. At least, that's what they hope to learn. The Mars rover Perseverance, or Percy, as it is known by some of the male staff at the Space Exploration Headquarters, has been collecting samples and sending back photographs to Earth for over a year and a half, all in an effort to answer the age-old query of whether or not life exists on Mars. In this video, we will be talking about the shocking images of Martian life sent by the Perseverance rover. Stay with us till the end of the video to know exciting information. The successful landing of Percy. It's true that people will say anything, but you'd think that a scientist's claims would be grounded in solid evidence. People believed them when they said Martians could exist, but their reasoning behind this is unclear. Planet Mars is home to either human, like aliens, or some other kind of intelligent life. Since astrobiologists found evidence of water on Mars, they reasoned that if water was the key to revolutionizing life on Earth, it might accomplish the same for our Milky Way neighbor. Although the 2020 Mars mission had several objectives, including collecting samples, researching the surface topography, and more, the primary purpose of the rover mission was to determine whether or not life exists on Mars. Those areas where researchers had good reason to expect to find water had to be their top priority. It stands to reason that there would be a concentration of people in the area immediately surrounding a lake or other significant body of water. Perseverance touched down at the Jezero crater for water in 2020. Because of that, scientists think the enormous clay crater was once a lake. By February of 2021, Percy had landed safely in the crater, and the area had been dubbed the Octavia EE, Butler Landing Site, in honor of the late African-American science fiction writer. NASA scientists speculate that for billions of years, the Jezero crater was home to Mars's longest river and lake. They calculated that, like Earth, the red planet had been around for a total of 4.6 billion years. As a result, the likelihood that life existed on Mars, or even the more tantalizing prospect that it does exist today, is quite high. The importance of organic material to NASA. Raman and luminescence for organic and molecular scanning in a livable environment. We'll keep calling it Sherlock. The spectrometer is a small-scale UV instrument built for endurance to detect organic substances in the samples it has been storing from the red planet. Since anything so carbon-based could only have originated in decomposing plant and animal matter. On September 15, mission officials reported that while exploring 8 miles of the Jezero crater, Percy had uncovered biological materials. 2 samples the rover took from the skin as Rich Ridge and Wildcat Ridge turned out to have the highest concentration of organic material ever discovered by a rover. Instrument scientist for Persistence, Sunanda Sharma, later asserted that the discovery of such abundant organic materials was evidence that the mission had succeeded in its goal of searching for life on Mars. Only 25 of Percy's 43 sample tubes were expected to be redeemed. Organic material collected by the car-sized rover will be transferred to a sample retriever lander and returned to Earth for further study by scientists in a joint mission between NASA and the European Space Agency. The evidence for life on Mars. Finding organic materials on Mars with the Perseverance rover was major news, but not as momentous as the discovery that led scientists to the possibility of life on Mars for the first time. In 1996, David McKay's team stated they had found evidence of life on Mars. The evidence they're referring to is a rock that was found by snowboarding scientists in Antarctica. According to McKay and his friends, the rock is a piece of Mars that was blown off, traveled through space, and eventually landed in Antarctica. McKay then proceeded to show off the Martian rock and kick up the panel debate by asking, "Is there life on Mars?" As could be expected, there was considerable disagreement in the community at large. McKay's peers in the scientific world were as dubious as the general public. For instance, William Schaff claimed that the existence of biological materials while a discovery was nothing more than regular old rock. Despite this, there was no hard evidence that Martian life actually existed. While scientists are now divided on the question of whether or not life ever existed on Mars, the majority now hold that it did, most likely around 3.6 billion years back, when the Jezero crater started to dry up. So while the majority of people think life has long since died out on Mars, a tiny fraction rejects this idea. That, however, is precisely what Percy set out to discover. Equipped with cameras, microphones, and samplers, the rover was expected to collect over 43 stored samples of stuff from the planet. record frequency waves, test for the existence of oxygen, and much more. The limited record of longest flight on Mars. When the larger drone Percy landed on Mars in February 2021, it was accompanied by the smaller Ingenuity. The planet's airborne samples or data were entrusted to Ingenuity. The drone has completed 29 orbits around Mars, making it the object with the greatest flight duration on the red planet. No big deal if Percy finds life on Mars, right? So far, we've discussed the planned tasks for the car-sized rover, the equipment it will use, and the much-touted space rocks. However, it is important to acknowledge the obvious. If you were to tell almost anyone that the Mars rover uncovered data suggesting that there may be life on Mars, people might expect something a little more spectacular than organic stuff found in rocks on the side of a dried-up crater. Let's pretend, though, that the headlines announced that the Perseverance rover had discovered a genuine Martian the very next day. We'll say the proof was a fossil of a Martian, to make it seem less like science fiction and more like a historical event. Now what? After the initial shock wears off, space agencies will have to discuss taboo subjects and make tough choices. Obviously, the fate of Earth would be their initial concern. Getting to Mars in 2020. The Mars 2020 mission itself assumes the existence of, or the potential for the existence of, extraterrestrial intelligence. Perhaps there are other worlds teeming with lifelike copies of Earth, each with its own unique culture, technological advancements, and methods of subsistence. All life is said to have originated in the same way, with a unicellular creature that eventually evolved into a multicellular one, and set the wheels in motion for the process of evolution. Mars, with its similar conditions, would have been an ideal place for life to emerge. It's possible that this means life on Earth began when a meteorite carrying organic material from Mars crashed to the surface, transforming simple cells into complex multicellular animals, or it could suggest the opposite. Although Percy has only seen Mars's craters, deserts, as well as the general geopattern of an abandoned planet, he concludes that the red planet is where life first emerged in our solar system. The primary objective of SpaceX. Many people probably view Elon Musk, the multi-billionaire entrepreneur, as just a bored rich guy looking for a pastime with all the time on his hands. Opinions are split on whether or not to take him properly in light of his incessant tweeting. However, Musk didn't get where he is now without being a revolutionary and an eccentric one at that. And now Percy has found evidence that life may exist on Mars, suggesting that the red planet is habitable. One of the key goals of the space manufacturing business SpaceX, founded in 2002 by a multimillionaire inspired by these discussions from 1996, is the eventual colonization of Mars. A growing number of people are signing up to be the first to inhabit and perhaps profit from this new world. Even while Mars may seem like a great place to start a new life, scientists warn against making it your permanent home. What gives? Even while the discovery of life on Mars will undoubtedly change the world, this fact alone would not be sufficient to cause people to abandon Earth. This could be because Mars symbolizes what happens to a planet after it dries out and can no longer support life on the same grand scale as Earth. Not only that, but the planet's atmosphere and geography are incompatible with human life, as we require oxygen and water to thrive. In addition, the cosmic radiation on Mars is so excessively strong that no human being could ever live if they ever set foot there. The premise of the 2015 film The Martian is thrown into question as a result. But what's the appearance of Martian is like? Something Martian has shown up. Though many have twisted their imaginations to imagine what Martians would look like, the consensus seems to be that they are wrinkled and prune-like with bug-like eyes. More than any basis in reality, this is based on the fact that this really creates excellent Hollywood shock value. However, suppose Martians really did exist. The question is, what would they look like? Since we can only speculate about the genetic elements that would have had a role in someone's height, we may safely assume that they would be significantly taller than the average person. The tall stature of the hypothetical Martians is based on the assumption that they would have had to scout vast areas of their planet in order to find food, and then compete with one another for the scarce resources available. Would they have aged like prunes, though? Also dubious, given that Mars is roughly 222 million kilometers from the Sun and Earth is only 148 million kilometers from Mars. Despite its popular image, the Sahara has a lower average temperature than Earth. It's likely that bare Martians would freeze to death in the planet's cold, but it's also possible that the planet's environment wouldn't have supported their development in the first place. Whether or not Martians are naturally blind due to the planet's intense radiation is also up for debate. We won't know for sure unless an actual Martian crosses Percy's path. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, do like and subscribe to this channel.